Hello students, welcome to all to SUNYA IAS. Today we are going to have a little bit discussion about sociology, that why and how sociology is unique, what are the important aspects we have to take care of while analyzing the syllabus, how we have to read the syllabus, how we have to understand the integration between different papers of sociology. Okay, so the agenda of class will be understanding basics of sociology, having or developing a sociological imagination, that how we are going to read about anything which is going on in current affairs or anything which you have been reading in newspapers, how that is relevant from a sociological perspective, how you can think from a sociological perspective. Third thing, we will be understanding or analyzing the syllabus of sociology. Fourth, we will be understanding how these both papers are interrelated to each other, so that whenever you are reading about sociology, how you are going to read about it. Okay, and last, we will be also talking about little bit of answer writing or what can be your approach related to sociology. Then now, what is sociology? When we are talking about that, yes, sociology is a very much important optional. People say that it has very less syllabus, it can be covered in a very limited time frame. How that can be completed in a very limited time frame? Before jumping into that particular conclusion, we have to understand that what is the particular importance of sociology, what sociology is all about. Okay, now I will start with science and not sociology, because science is the subject which we have already covered from our childhood days. So what is science? Anyone can answer what is science? Science is nothing but systematic accumulation of knowledge. Science is nothing but systematic accumulation of knowledge. When we use the term systematic, what does it mean? That everything which we need to improve our understanding has been collected as step by step. Okay, we have a particular procedure that we will be utilizing some data, we will be collecting those data, we will be making relationship between those data, and then we will be trying to make a larger generalization if that is possible, and hence we can conclude to conclusion. That is what science is all about, systematic accumulation of knowledge. Now, why I have used this word science here and not sociology? That when we are talking about sociology, in your paper 1 chapter 2, which is about sociology as science, we also trying to find out what is the relationship between sociology and science. Here comes this important part, that we have to understand what sociology is all about. So sociology is nothing but systematic study of society. Systematic study of society. That how we are going to study society in a very systematic framework, in a step-by-step framework, to make larger generalizations, and hence we can come to a particular conclusion that yes, these are the changings which have been continuing in different social institutions. Okay, so in sociology, as we have written, it is nothing but systematic study of society. In this society, what we are going to understand? We are going to understand about different social institutions. We're going to understand about human behavior in a sociological setting. We are going to understand about social forces. In the end, we are going to understand about social change. Okay, Now, tell me, what is this society is all about? What this society is all about? That if we are going, we are saying that sociology is nothing but systematic study of society. What is society then? So, for anything to be considered as society, there are some characteristics which we need to take care of. That society has members. If society has members, they must be living in some particular boundary, some particular geographical territory. The second component is boundary or a territory. If they are living in some boundary, if they are living in some territory, that means they must be sharing something. What they have been sharing? They have been sharing nothing but common beliefs, practices, values, etc. So this is all society is all about. So people living in a particular territory or boundary, sharing common beliefs, practices, values, etc. That is what society is called. Okay. Now here comes a question that if we are saying that there is a particular boundary and all people are sharing common beliefs and practices or values, etc., then how we are going to consider India as one society? Because there are different beliefs, different practices, different customs, different rituals, etc., in different parts of the world, in different parts of the country, in different regions of India. Even in one caste, even in caste system, you will be saying that the Brahmins have different practices, Kshatriyas have different practices. So how we are going to say that this particular thing is correct about India? That there are shared common beliefs and practices or values. That's the reason we always say that has India is an accumulation of different types of societies where different views, different customs, different practices, different values are coexisting at one particular place, and hence we call that particular place a union of all the states, that is India. Okay. Now, the next thing which we have used here is social institution. Social institution. So, what is social institution? What is social institution? For that, we have to understand what institution is all about. What institution is all about. Take one example. Family. In family, there are different individuals or members. They are having relationship connected with each other. There are certain rules and regulations which every member of the family has to follow. There is certain goal which the family is trying to achieve. So if these individual members having a relationship, following certain rules and regulations, trying to follow a certain goal or achieve that particular goal, that is what is called an institution. Now compare this particular thing with any other social institution which we find in society. For example, school. School has students. There are different relationships. Students have certain relationship which can be informal also. There is teacher-student relationship which has to be formal. Okay, there is certain rules and regulations, the timings of schools, the pedagogy which has to be followed, the curriculum which needs to be followed, and there is certain goal to make to give education to every child which has been enrolled in that particular school. Similar for university, similar for political parties, similar for caste system, similar for religion. All these are nothing but social institutions. So in sociology, we study these social institutions. Okay. Then next, which we have written, human behavior. Now, when sociology is trying to understand human behavior, it is not focusing on individuals alone. This is not domain of sociology. Why it is not focusing on individuals alone? Because if we are going to give importance to an individual in a society, that is not going to, we are not going to find out the generalization. We are not going to find out the conclusion that how one thing is impacting the other people. Okay. So this particular individual domain is of domain of psychology, not of sociology. Human behavior which is oriented towards society or oriented towards others, that is what sociology is concerned about. That how an individual action is oriented towards others, that is what sociology is concerned about. And this oriented towards other, if you are having an, trying to interact with the other person, there will be certain goal, there will be certain motive with which you are trying to interact with the other person. That motive or goal makes this individual action as social action, which we are concerned as sociology students. Okay. For example, you interacting with your fellow aspirants at a startup place. So that is not an individual action. Why? Because in that social surroundings, you must be interacting with you are interacting with your peers, you are interacting with your fellow aspirants to get some goal, to get some motive. You must be discussing about politics, you must be discussing about your issues which you have been facing in family, your issues in your preparation, you must be talking about something else. For example, Bollywood gossips, etc. etc. Okay. So that is not an individual action. That individual action or the human behavior has been controlled by the social settings, controlled by the social surroundings, controlled by the social structure. So this human action becomes, or human behavior is become a patterned behavior which is organized and which is followed by the others. That is what we have been concerned about. That if you are with your family members, you will be behaving in a certain manner. You are individually locked in your room, you will be behaving in a certain manner. So the social institution as family which is pressurizing you to behave in a certain manner, that is what social action is and which you are concerned about that particular social action. Okay. The last component which we have written, or the next component which we have written about, social force. So we individual react in a social setting, react according to the social surroundings, and hence we make a social action which is a concern for our sociology domain. So what are these social forces? Social forces are those forces which led to a change in society. Social forces are those forces which led to a change in, for example, how French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, the period of Enlightenment, the period of Renaissance has led to the change in society at a larger level. how social reforms in India, which you read about as Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj movements, etc., how they have led to change in Indian society. Okay, so sociology tries to understand, or sociology is a subject which studies the social forces which are trying to bring change in the society, or which are resisting that particular change. Sociology trying to study social forces which are bringing change in society or resisting change in society. Okay, take example from current affairs wala part. Marriage rights to homosexual couples. Now, the traditional understanding of marriage is what? That marriage is a social institution where we see social relationships, or where we see relationship between two heterosexual individuals. That is a Indian traditional domain of understanding marriage. That one has to be male, other has to be female. That is what argument has been given by Indian government in Supreme Court when the homosexual individuals were fighting for their marriage rights. So this is what the government is trying to follow, a traditional norm of marriage. A traditional norm of marriage. Whereas the demand of marriage rights for homosexual is nothing but a modern impact. That means it is nothing but a modern change. One is resisting that particular change, and one is asking about that particular change, that we need those rights because it is a concern of human rights, it is concern of individual rights, it is concern of, we as a sociology are concerned about, sociology students are concerned about these particular domains. This French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, Enlightenment, Renaissance, etc., these are nothing but historical events. Are we concerned about the timelines of those events? We are not concerned about historical timelines of those events. We are concerned about the larger causes which are bringing these changes, and larger reasons which are resisting those changes, and how those changes are impacting the society at a larger frame. Okay, that was the last social change that we are going to try understand about the social change. So this is the basic of sociology, that what sociology is all about. Okay, now for the students who are trying to or thinking about taking sociology as an optional, try to think from this particular perspective, that what basics of sociology which we need to cover when we are trying to prepare for this UPSC exam. That what is the use of sociology? So you must have been getting a lot of videos related to toppers approach of sociology, etc., etc., that how it is relevant for them, or how the syllabus is very less, you can score very big marks while preparing for a very less time frame. That approach needs to be developed in a very systematic framework. सिर्फ ऐसे कहने से फॉलो करने से कुछ नहीं होगा, unless until you are systematically following, you are trying to understand that yes, these are the core areas which we need to focus on. Okay, so what sociology gives you? For your essay answer writing also, sociology is very much helpful. For your social justice answers, for your Indian society answers, for your ethics answer also, sociology is very much helpful. How it is helpful? What is the unique, approach? What is the nature of sociology which is helping you to think about in those particular perspectives which the students from other background are not been able to think about? So sociology tries to look society in a different framework. That means it tries to debunks commonsensical perspectives which you see in society. which you see in society. Okay. For example, this marriage wala part which I have highlighted in the last slide, that for a traditional domain, आप कहीं भी जाके पूछिए, in a rural area, in a urban area, when you will be going out, you will be asking people related to the marriage issue. They will be saying that yes, marriage has to be between one male and one female. ये जो concept है, the concept related to homosexual marriages, this is nothing but alien to the most of the people in Indian society. So common sensical approach क्या हुई? That marriage is a relationship between two heterosexual individuals. But in the modern society, is it relevant now? No, that common sociological or common sensical perspective has been debunked. So common sense is considered as a routine knowledge, everyday routine knowledge. As a sociology students, we try to debunk that particular routine knowledge by bringing reflexivity in our approach. By bringing reflexivity in our approach, we try to understand that how this particular commonsensical approach can be debunked. Okay. For example, caste system. We say there is a caste system where caste has been divided into 4 different segments: Brahmans, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. That is nothing but a commonsensical knowledge. Yes, Brahmins are superior, Shudras are at the lowest position. ये बनी कैसे? The social institutions which are surrounding us, for example, family, religion, caste, etc., they are supporting this particular segregation which we have on the basis of caste. तो कॉमन सेंस तो ये कहती है कि जितने भी ब्राह्मण्स होंगे दे आर एट द सुपीरियर पोजीशन, जितने भी क्षत्रियस होंगे दे आर एट द सेकंड पोजीशन, जितने भी वैश्यस होंगे दे आर द थर्ड पोजीशन, और जितने भी शूद्रास होंगे दे आर एट द लोवेस्ट और फोर्थ पोजीशन. बट इज दिस अ रियलिटी? ये तो कॉमन सेंस हुआ ना. There are differences between same caste also. Related to Shudras in 1960s or 70s, there was one particular case where 2 scheduled caste communities went to court to highlight that my subcaste is superior than the other subcaste. But both were belonging to Shudras only. For example, Brahmans. The Chaturvedis will always say that as we have read all the Vedas, that's how the name Chaturvedi has come, that we are the superior ones to the other Brahmans who are doing or who have not read all the Vedas. This whole social setting has been debunked by Dipankar Gupta also, where he has found out that in Western UP, in Punjab, in Haryana, Jats consider themselves as superior to the Brahmins. क्या कोई हरियाणा या पंजाब के जाट जो होंगे, they will consider themselves inferior to Brahmins? No. In Punjab, he has found, Dipankar Gupta has found that Brahmins are considered at the third position, not at the first position. So how we are going to understand that particular part? This is what sociology is all about, debunking the commons. Okay. Then, as sociology students, we try to find out how societies are different in their nature or action. First and the foremost thing, as a sociology student, you must have to bring out a neutrality in your stance to how see the society. We are not looking for good. We are not looking for anything bad. We are trying to understand the society as it is existing in reality, without having any biasness कि ये खराब है या ये अच्छी है. ठीक है? Now, this is a real examples which I will be talking about. In West, in America, in Europe, etc., in movies and all, you must have been seeing that how a 60-year-old person is marrying a 20-year-old. How people at the age of 70, they are getting divorced. This is happening in some parts of India also, but largely for Western society, that is considered as normal. That is normal for them, but that is not normal for our society. That means marriage as an institution, family as an institution has been changing. Some changes are happening in West, which are not relevant, which are not been considered as an appeased or a good changes according to the Indian society. But those are realities, those are happening. A person, a 60-year-old, 70-year-old person sitting in a bar having his drinks and trying to, flirt with a 20-year-old girl, 25-year-old girl, and they are getting married. Leonardo DiCaprio, Jeff Bezos, etc. Okay, so that is normal for them. So we as a sociology students, we try to understand these variations, these changes without giving them any judgment. Okay. Then as a sociology students, we try to understand non-dominant views. We try to understand non-dominant views. What this non-dominant views means then. So for our Indian society, whenever we are trying to learn about caste system, we try to understand, yes, always Brahmins are superior. So whatever the articles, whatever the notes which we'll be reading about, those will be considered as a dominant view. But we are not been able to understand the perspectives of the different other people. So that's where sociology comes. That we try to understand non-dominant view also. The views of homosexuals, the views of Dalits, the views of farmers, the views of marginalized sections, women, etc. That is the reason feminist scholars have been coming at a very vocal way when we talk about when they talk about their rights in society. Okay. Now, let us try to understand the syllabus of our paper 1 first, then I will try to highlight the syllabus of paper 2 also, that how we are going to read this syllabus, how we are going to proceed further. So for paper 1, if you have taken sociology as optional, you need to understand that what are the different aspects of those syllabus pointers. The first chapter is about sociology, the discipline. Sociology, the discipline. Now, when we talk about sociology as the discipline, in first chapter, we try to find out what were the reasons which led to emergence of sociology. Sociology is considered as the newest subject which is born at a very later stage of time. Okay, philosophy, psychology, etc. they are considered as the mothers of other social science. So if philosophy was there, psychology was there, political science was there, economy was there, why there was a need to develop a new subject? जरूरत क्या पड़ी that we have to look for sociology? So the reason is that there were lot of changes, or we can say social changes, which were going on in society at that particular point of time, started from a period of Renaissance. That Renaissance, which talks about giving focus to human values or humanism, that brought human to a center. Before Renaissance, there was a larger role of religion and church. Everything was considered right, which the religion or church will say as right. जो भी लोग हैं, they have to follow the dictates of religion and church. अगर आपने religion church के खिलाफ कुछ भी बोला, you will be persecuted. That's what we have read about. So Renaissance period gives the approach of human-centric approach, that we have to look for a humanism perspective. So that brought some changes. Then clubbed with scientific revolution. That how people came, like Newton, Galileo, etc., and they have talked about that yes, Earth is round. It takes circle of sun, which was not available earlier. This information was challenged by church. Then comes the period of enlightenment. That people got enlightened. A new awakening came to the society. That we started to question everything on the basis of reason. कि आप जो बोल रहे हो, the church which has been saying कि हमें ये चीज नहीं करनी चाहिए, what is the reason about that particular part? Take for example, how do you think capitalism has spread to everywhere? That we have been a colonized country. What is the reason about that particular part? What do you think? How that particular thing developed? So the merchants of Europe and West, they started to question church. Church क्या कहता था कि ये समुंदर है, समुंदर के बाद दुनिया खत्म हो जाती है, कि अगर आप समुंदर में जाओगे एक कोना ऐसा आएगा that you will be doomed. So the merchants, the traders, etc., they have thought about that. Why can't we move forward above from our land? Why can't we travel in the seas? So they challenged the church. They started to travel, and hence the people started to coming to different parts of the world. वास्को डी गामा आ गए हमारे यहाँ पर. Okay. Then comes your French Revolution, which gave to the birth of democracy, liberty, equality, fraternity, etc. And then comes your Industrial Revolution, where the factory system became very much important. The profit-oriented, ideology became very much important. So all these things brought larger changes in the society, which these other subjects were not been able to answer about. Economy क्या ढूंढेगा? That इससे हमें profit है कि नहीं profit है? Okay. Psychology क्या करेगी कि individual person पे कितना impact पड़ रहा है, कितना impact नहीं पड़ रहा है? Who is going to talk about that how religion has been changing as a whole? How this change in industrial revolution has been changing the family system? कि कैसे फैमिली के एक इंडिविजुअल को शहर में आके काम करना पड़ रहा है so that he can earn and send some money back to his family at the village level. How this has been changing the marriage relations, how this has been changing, leading to the rise of different classes in the society, वो सब कौन बताएगा? So hence we came to the birth of sociology. In detail we will talking about in the later lectures of ours. So this is just an overview. Okay. This is the first component which we will be reading about here. Then second, we will be reading about scope and nature of sociology. That how the scope of sociology is different, how the nature of sociology is unique, which I have already told you earlier. The third point which we will be reading about is sociology and other social sciences. That how sociology is different from psychology, how sociology is different from economics, how sociology is different from history. Okay. How sociology is different from political science. For example, in political science, we are talking about, yes, these are the people who lead the political parties. For whenever the election will happen, we will understand the votes and voting behavior. That yes, इस पॉकेट में से इन लोगों ने इनको ज्यादा वोट दिए हैं. बट क्या सोशियोलॉजी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को स्टडी करेगी? Sociology will try to understand that how this political elite is getting made. कि if Modi Sahab is winning elections again and again, why he has been winning elections again and again? क्या सिर्फ controlling the voters' behavior is important? So they will highlight, no, he has some kind of a charismatic leadership. Okay, which Badri Narayan, a political scientist, calls about trust capital. That It doesn't matter how India has been performing on different parameters. Human development पे क्या है नहीं पता, corruption पे क्या है नहीं पता. But the people have so much trust in this particular leadership of PM Modi that they are ready to vote for him, even though the social surroundings are not supportive enough. So that trust capital is concern for our. Okay, then how and why Dalits vote in a different parameter? How Muslims or other minorities are voting? How women is changing their voting behavior? Why do you think every other political party in different corners of India have been trying to woo the votes of women? Because now they have been training guns. That means now they have been leading from the front whenever there is a time of changing the political parties. West Bengal, एक political party कहती है हम 1500 देंगे, अगली आती है हम बोलते हैं 3000 देंगे. TVK in Tamil Nadu, okay, that we will be giving 8 grams of gold also. All those are nothing but to woo the votes of women. So we try to understand in that particular aspect. Okay. Similarly for economy is concerned only about profit and loss. But we as a sociology students, we are concerned about that how this economical change in society is going to bring the larger change. For example, how this rise of artificial intelligence is leading to the rise of gig economy, and because of this gig economy, how the society or workers or their rights, their life has been changing. Mass layoffs have been happening. There is no security to their wages, security to their tenure. All those are nothing but the changes which we sociology students try to understand. Okay. The third part which we read in paper 1, chapter 1 is about sociology and common sense, which we have already given an example earlier. Now for sociology and economy wala perspective, think from another perspective which I am going to highlight here. Now everyone loves to have coffee or tea. Take example from European society. ठीक है, एक बड़ी कॉफी की शॉप है where everyone is trying to avoid कि हमें इस शॉप में जाके कॉफी पीनी है. वहां वो जाते हैं, they are having coffee. Suppose that coffee is coming from 1000 rupees a cup. Okay. Now from where this particular coffee is coming? This coffee is coming from poor African countries. Where there are issues with their labor rights, informalization in which they have been working. Okay, wage gap which they have been facing. So the hard work done by a poor people in a poor country that has been transformed as a luxury in a rich country. So the work of poor people who have been working on coffee beans, that has been transformed as a luxury in Europe. So that is what a social connection which we try to highlight in sociology and which we try to read in. Okay. Then comes your second chapter. Second chapter is about sociology as science, where we try to highlight that if sociology is science or not, where there will be different views. As I started in the first slide itself, the science is nothing but scientific accumulation of knowledge, and most of the thinkers also consider about that particular approach that yes, sociology is following the science step, hence it is called as social science. Okay. Here again you will be reading about sociology as science. There are different approaches to understand that. One is positivist school, the other is non-positivist school. Positivist school follows on the scientific approach, non-positivist follows on not on the non-scientific approach. So the major domain will be that science or experiments in science can be done in a controlled environment. दैट मीन्स कोई भी आपको फिजिक्स या केमिस्ट्री का एक्सपेरिमेंट करना है, दैट कैन बी डन इन अ कंट्रोल्ड एनवायरनमेंट इन अ लैब. बट इज इट पॉसिबल इन साइंस? Is it possible in sociology? The answer is no. So that controlled experiment is not possible in sociology. Human behavior को आप controlled environment में कैसे जानोगे? Social relationships, how they have been made into social institutions, how different social institutions are interacting with each other, ये आप कैसे जानोगे? It is not happening in controlled environment. That is an open field. There comes the third chapter, which I will talk about later on. Okay, so here you also understand about fact, value, and objectivity. That what is fact, how it is different from value, what is value, how it is different from objectivity. So most thinkers will say that yes, sociology is objective because it is following a certain strands, whereas the other thinkers will say that sociology needs to be objective, but there are some differences, some difficulties which are needed to be taken care of, and hence we can say science is sociology is objective, and hence sociology is science. Okay. In third chapter, we try to understand about research methods and methodology related to sociology. That what are the different techniques on the basis of which sociology is connecting data, or social scientists are trying to connect the data. Okay, so we have to look for that. For example, as I have said earlier, कि science में तो you can get data from the labs, but in sociology we look for surveys, we look for interviews, and the most important method is about participant observation. So most of the thinkers which we will be reading in paper 2 also, like M. N. Srinivas, Andre Bete, they were nothing but participant observant. What does it mean participant observation means? Participant means what? That they are going to participate in some surroundings. And while participating in those surroundings, they are going to observe some things and make generalization of it. Hence, we know about concepts of sensitization, the social mobility parameter, which M. N. Srinivas has tried to debunk from a commonsensical perspective. Okay. Then class domain, which caste and class relationship, which Andre Bete has tried to highlight. So they dive deep into understanding the society by participating with the members of those society. कि किसी एक विलेज में गए, वहां लोगों के साथ कुछ टाइम रहे, कुछ महीने रहे, try to understand कि what they are doing, how they are behaving, how they are interacting with each other, अपर कास्ट लोअर कास्ट से कैसे इंटरेक्ट कर रही है, सब कास्ट डोमेन से एक दूसरे से कैसे इंटरेक्ट कर रहे हैं, मैरिज रिलेशंस कैसे बन रहे हैं. Okay, for example, in North India we say that marriage is done on the basis of what? Caste endogamy, कि एक कास्ट दूसरे कास्ट से शादी करेगा, and village exogamy, कि एक विलेज दूसरे विलेज में, एक ही विलेज में शादी नहीं हो सकती है. ओके, देन देयर इज गोत्र एक्सोगेमी आल्सो, कि एक गोत्र दूसरे गोत्र से शादी नहीं कर सकता है. दिस इज अ कॉमन सेंसिकल अप्रोच ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग द मैरिजेस इन नॉर्थ इंडिया. बट इज इट यूनिवर्सल? नो, इट इज नॉट यूनिवर्सल. हाउ? इन सदर्न इंडिया क्रॉस कजन्स मैरिजेस हैपन. वहां पे तो विलेज एंडोगेमी है, दैट पीपल मैरी इन द सेम विलेजेस इटसेल्फ. There is one particular community, which is Nair community of Kerala, where we see that one woman can have 9 husbands. That we cannot see, or we do not see in North India. Okay. So these are the observations which we get to know because of this participant observation technique, which the many thinkers, many sociologists have been using to understand the society. Okay, then there are qualitative, quantitative methods which we will be highlighting. If the name quantitative is coming, that means we are quantifying something that is relevant for science. Qualitative means that we are trying to understand that what are the qualitative relationships, qualitative connection between social institutions can be made, and hence how we are going to judge them. That is domain of our social science. Okay, so this is the larger background of chapter 3. Then chapter 4, where we tend to focus about sociological thinkers. Now in sociological thinkers, the most important doubt which any student have is how many thinkers we are going to write in an answer sheet. कि हम 10 थिंकर लिखें, 15 थिंकर लिखें, कितने थिंकर्स लिखें कि हमें नंबर ज्यादा मिलेंगे. Okay, the proper answer of this I will talk about later on. In paper 1 we have only 6 thinkers. Karl Marx, Emile Durkheim or Durkheim as many people say. Then there is Max Weber, then your Talcott Parsons, then your Robert King Merton, and your George Herbert Mead. Karl Marx from Germany, Max Weber from Germany, Emile Durkheim from France, Talcott Parsons, R.K. Merton, G.H. Mead are from America. So first 3 are European scholars, next 3 are American scholars. So in paper 1, the major domain is only for these 6 thinkers. Okay, apart from these 6 thinkers, we also read some thinkers from paper 2. One is our G.S. Ghure for his Indological approach to understand the Indian society. Then M.N. Srinivas for his structural functionalist approach to understand the Indian society. Then there is A.R. Desai for his Marxist approach to understand the Indian society. Then there is Andre Bete, who gives us a Weberian view to understand the Indian society. Then there is Louis Dumont. He gives a traditional view to understand the Indian society. Then there is Yogendra Singh, who tried to understand the social change in the form of modernization of Indian traditions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, 6 from paper 2, the major thinkers which we read to about this. So now as a students, who are writing answers related to sociology, you don't need to dive deep into writing too many thinkers. The relevant thinker according to the demand of question is our concern. 6 thinker लिख देंगे, information कुछ देंगे नहीं, तो it is not going to give you marks. Whereas different dimensions generated with respect to the demand of question and clubbing it with relevant thinker 1 or 2, it is going to give you good marks. Club it with examples. Okay. So Karl Marx gives us a economic understanding of society. He always tried to find out that how these economic differences, economic challenges are going to, are creating problems for the society. For example, he was not supportive of the changes which were drawn by the capitalist world. That this industrialization, industrial revolution, the capitalism has been creating lot of problems, lot of havoc for the working class, that has divided society into 2 different segments. The upper class, the ownership and non-ownership. Okay, so for him everything runs to the economical domain. Whereas for Weber, everything is not related to economy. We have to look from the other perspective also. Okay, for him religion is one of the important social institution which has tried to, or which has given birth to capitalism, which we'll be dealing about in Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism. Okay, Emile Durkheim has also different perspective, that yes, there is division of labor in society, but if the society is going to change in a certain framework, that change can be seen in the division of labor also. Emile Durkheim has also talked about the birth of religion. For him, totemism was one of the earliest religions. The origin of religion has been done on the basis of totemism. Okay, then Talcott Parsons, who talks about the sociology is nothing but the study of social structures or social system. that every system has to remain, in an integral framework. Then there is R.K. Martin, who tries to, some of his works you will be seeing that he's tried to criticize the Talcott Parson as well as Emil Durkheim. Then there is G.H. Mead, who talks about the development of from an individual self to a social self. In detail, we will be dealing in the later lectures when we talk about individually about the thinkers. Okay. Then for Indian thinker, G.S. Ghurye, he talks about that how the traditions are very much important for the consistent continuance of Indian society. Hence, most of his writings you will be seeing that he is supportive of caste system, he is supportive of religion, etc. Then M.N. Srinivas. M.N. Srinivas is nothing but trying to highlight the functionalist view given by Talcott Parsons and Emil Durkheim into the Indian society. Then A.R. Desai is nothing but following the Marxist tendency of understanding society from economical domains. Andre Bete and Louis Dumont. Both were French, but Andre Bete was an Indian citizen. Louis Dumont, he has worked so much hard related to the Indian society, but he was not part of Indian citizenship. So Louis Dumont, somewhat you will be reading about him in a traditional framework with G.S. Ghurye, but Andre Bete has given a Weberian view to Indian society or understand the Indian society. So if you are understanding these 6 thinkers in a very lucid framework, in a very, what we can say, in a very structured framework, you are easily going to understand Indian society from Indian thinkers' perspective. Why? Because most of the Indian thinkers, they have taken view from this, or their views have been taken inspiration from these 3 or 4 thinkers which we will be dealing in paper. Okay. Then comes your chapter 5, which is about social stratification. Now, what do we mean by stratification? Stratification is nothing but layers. So here we will be trying to understand that how society is stratified into different frameworks. On the basis of class, the society is divided. Upper class, middle class, lower class. On the basis of caste, the society is divided. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. For this class, what is important? Income. On the basis of income, which we are trying to divide this class. And here on the basis of status, not on the basis of income. So this can be quantified, this cannot be quantified. Okay. Why Brahmins have more status than the Shudras in society? Here comes the importance of institutionalization, which we have talked in the earlier slide. The social institutions have devised in such a way that everyone tried to accept it, that becomes commonsensical knowledge. So the religious superiority which has been given to Brahmins has led to their institutionalization as a topmost position till now. But isn't caste system has been changing? Yes, caste system has been changing. And hence we are going to find out the reasons for those change. Okay. Then race is there. White race is always considered as, or consider themselves as superiors to the others. How these Indians or Asians have been discriminated in US, Australia, etc., etc. US or other European countries. How blacks have been discriminated in USA. Okay. Then ethnicity is there. That how Northeast Indians have been targeted or discriminated in different parts of India itself. Few days ago, a few months ago, there was a Northeastern youngster who was killed in Dehradun. In 2014, a Northeast person was killed in Delhi also. So how they have been discriminated? How Biharis have been discriminated on the basis of their ethnicity? Okay. How Bollywood portrays Sikhs when we talk about their portrayal in the movies. Okay, कि उसको सिर्फ जोक मारना नहीं आता होगा, उसको सिर्फ दारू पीनी आती होगी. So that is nothing but a discrimination on the basis of ethnicity. So as a sociology students, we try to dive into those approaches. Okay. Then we will be also understanding about social mobility. Social mobility. That how or what changes bring mobility of a person from lower position to the upper position or upper to the lower position, or vertically how they, or horizontally how they get mobile. Okay. Different generations how they get mobility, different individuals how they get mobility, how education is important for social mobility, how law, constitutional values are important for social mobility. We'll deal about that particular. Then your sixth chapter comes, which is talks about work and economic life. As the name suggests, work and economic life, that means we will be dealing about that how the nature of work and economy has been changing in society, and how that has been leading to birth of different types of societies. That how work and economic was different in ancient society, how that has changed into slave society, how that has changed into feudal society, and how it has been changing in the modern society. In modern society also there has been changing with respect to artificial intelligence, and how the life of an individual or life of society is changing because of those artificial intelligence and rise of the new avenues of work and economic life like gig economy. Okay. Then we talk about labor and society. Okay. We talk about child labor, etc. We talk about the division of labor on the basis of gender. That why women have been commodified in certain types of jobs only. उनको सिर्फ रिसेप्शनिस्ट ही बनना है, टीचर्स ही बनना है. Why that? What is the reason behind that? How patriarchy is controlling that particular part? So patriarchy and sexual division of labor, we will be dealing about that in this particular chapter. Then your seventh chapter, which talks about politics and society, which talks about politics and society. So here we will be dealing about democracy. We will be dealing about nation, state. What is nation? What is state? How that has been changing in the modern time frame. How democracy has been changing in the modern time frame. How citizenship has been changing in the modern time frame. How these anti-migrant policies, which we have been dealing at the world level, not only in India, at the different corners of the world, how that has been bringing change in the democratic nature of world. How there is emergence of new world order in the society. What is the impact of degradation of UN, United Nations, as a larger institutional mechanism or framework to control the wars? Wars to continue हो रही हैं. Russia and Ukraine have been fighting for more than 3 years now. Israel and USA has been attacking Iran. Pakistan has been fighting with Afghanistan. There is a trade war which has been continuing at the world level. So how these are relevant for us to understand? Okay, or how we are going to understand these changes with respect to the change at the larger level? कि क्या अब world control सिर्फ कुछ हाथों में बचा हुआ है कि if all the different members of the world, for example different countries of the world, they hold some kind of power to control this dynamics. Okay, we will be dealing about political elite, we will be dealing about the social movements. Sociology is not considered about that what kind of an individual movement that happened. Sociology is considered about that how social movements happen, why some social movements get success and why some social movements fail. For example, women movement in India. For example, Dalit movement in India, that they have been continuing from a very long time. Historical times हम देख रहे हैं women movement चल रहे हैं, Dalit movement चल रहे हैं, but why their situation has not been changed? So we as a sociology student we concerned about that what are the important characteristics of social movements are, or how one protest can change into a social movements. The social movement चलाने के लिए क्या जरूरत होता है? We need resources, we need people who are going to support that particular movement. We need some leadership, for example a charismatic leadership like Gandhi, Nehru. We need some ideology which is going to be supported by the larger people. जब तक कोई आइडियोलॉजी नहीं होगी, कोई इसको सपोर्ट नहीं करेगा, तो कैसे सोशल मूवमेंट रन करेगी? ओके, वी नीड सम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, सम ब्यूरोक्रेटिक स्ट्रक्चर कि कुछ लोगों का पार्ट ये होगा, बाकी लोग इंफॉर्मेशन डिसेमिनेट करेंगे, बाकी लोग ये लॉज बनाएंगे जो हमें आगे लेके जानी है. Any one of those can be challenged and hence a movement cannot succeed or can succeed. For example, for women movements, there is no particular resources on the basis of which they can, run a movement. There is no one particular ideology the women have been, following. Muslim movements have different issues, different ideology. Hindus movement have different issues, different ideology. Christian movement have different issues, different ideology. Upper class women, they have different ideologies. Lower class women, they have different problems which they have need to fight about. Similarly, for Dalit, there are different Dalit political parties having different ideologies. Some, just for capturing power, they are integrating with the larger upper political parties, for example, BJP or Congress. They are not fighting for the Dalit rights. The rise of new middle class among Dalits who wants to be considered as an upper caste people. Why they are going to fight for Dalit rights then? And hence there is a problem in, continuing of a Dalit movement and bringing larger change in the society. Okay. So all this we will be dealing about in chapter 7. Then comes your chapter 8, which is about religion. And so here we try to find out that what are the different origins of religion. For example, as I have told you earlier, that Emil Durkheim talks about that totemism is the reason for the origin of religion. Okay, then there will be some different thinkers. We talk about different approaches कि कोई बोलेगा magic से हुआ है, कोई बोलेगा ghost worship से हुआ है, etc. etc. Then we will try to understand about different communities related to religion. For example, the birth of sects, cults, how they get prominence. Then we try to find out that how religion is continuing in modern times, how science and religion are different to each other. Agar modern societies ko we consider that modern societies are nothing but a societies which are based on reason and rationalism or logic, then why religion is continuing today? Why scientists from ISRO, before launching any, their mission, they go to some temple? Why the Higgs boson, the smallest particle of world, has been called as God particle? So God ka hi nomenclature kyun diya gaya? Okay, then we're trying to find out the different problems with respect to the religion, the rise of communalism, fundamentalism, revivalism, etc. etc. This is domain of chapter 8. Then comes your chapter 9, which talks about systems of kinship, where we tend to find about family, marriage, etc. etc. What is kinship? How there are different changes in kinship, family and marriages. What are the contemporary trends? Why marriage is West is different? If family is dying in West, do you think family will die in India also? All those approaches we deal in family and marriage, system of kinship, chapter 9. Then comes your 10th chapter, which talks about social change. So the start of lecture also we talked about social change, and the end also of the paper 1 syllabus we are talking about social change. So in this particular section, we tend to understand about that how social change is happening in society. That if earlier society was based on religion, then society was based on natural laws, now society is based on scientific laws. This is nothing but the approach given by Auguste Comte, that how society has changed from theological to metaphysical state. Okay. This particular thing you will read in paper 1, chapter 1 also, you will be reading in chapter 10 also. Then how education, how science and technology is helping in social change. Why some countries like developed countries, they have changed to a larger extent, but developing countries or poor countries are still lagging behind in that particular development and change. So this is nothing but development and dependency, which we will be talking about in chapter 10. So this was your paper 1 syllabus. Now, how these chapters are related to each other, we will be seeing that particular portion now. For example, in first chapter, sociology, the discipline, when I was talking about emergence of sociology, that emergence of sociology was nothing but highlighted because of social change which we have been seeing in society. So here you will be understanding about linear theory of social change, which is also part of your chapter 10, the social change in society. That means that particular section can be covered here as well. Then comes your sociology as science. When we are trying to differentiate between sociology and science, we will be trying to understand that what are the different features of sociology, what are different features of science, how they are relative to each other, or how they are different to each other. That means the methods related to those, the research methodology, etc., can be also covered in that particular part. Hence, in my classes, I try to read chapter 2 with chapter 3 and make a proper holistic understanding of sociology as science. That means whenever you are reading about sociology as science, try to cover the chapter 3 research methods and applications in this particular part itself. Okay. Then for your chapter 4 sociological thinkers wala part, if Karl Marx is understanding society from an economical domain, that means whatever the changes he will be highlighting in society, that how society has moved from ancient society to this modern or capitalist society, he must be understanding in the framework of that what kind of work and economical changes happened in this transformation which led to the birth of new society. Okay, this was nothing but, if you remember, the part of your chapter 6 work and economic life. Okay, then Emil Durkheim, as I have talked earlier, that he has given a theory related to origin of religion also. This was nothing but part of our chapter 8, religion and society. Okay, when Max Weber has given about his perspective related to understanding capitalism or society, he has given a concept known as bureaucracy, that this is one of the important positives of capitalism. This bureaucracy is nothing but part of your politics and society also, the chapter 7. Okay, then Talcott Parson has also talked about bringing change in society from a structural functionist approach, which you will be again reading in chapter 10. R.K. Merton has talked about fundamentalism and revivalism, which we talk about in chapter 8. Okay. Then social stratification. So if we are understanding about caste dynamism, social mobility, etc., I will talk about this later when we talk about paper 2. Work and common life, the section we already covered in chapter 4, Karl Marx, religion, society, most of the sections already covered in Emil Durkheim wala part, system of kinship. Then social change, which we already cover in paper 1 and different aspects of other paper. I will be dropping up one sheet in the Sociology Telegram channel of SUNYA IAS, where you will be able to understand that how these chapters will be integrated in the form of PYQs also. Okay. Now, coming back to understanding paper 2, that when we are reading about paper 1, do we need to understand that from a paper 2 perspective also? So leave first 3 chapters, come for chapter 4. Karl Marx, Emil Durkheim, Max Weber, Talcott Parson, R.K. Merton, and G.H. Mead. I have already told you that how Indian thinkers and their views is getting impacted by, influenced by these particular 6 thinkers. Okay. Now, social stratification. So when we are reading about stratification on the basis of caste, class, etc., we are also going to read about caste conflicts and all. These are nothing but part of your paper 2 also. In paper 2, the chapter 4 talks about caste system. The last chapter of paper 2, chapter 15, talks about challenges of social transformation in India. Challenges of social transformation in India. Now understand, if we are talking about challenges of social transformation, that means India is transforming. Take example that we consider ourselves as that we are on a path of becoming a developed country. From where? From a developing country. So this transformation from developing to developed country is nothing but a transition phase which we are happening. And there are some challenges to those transformation phase. What are those challenges? The conflicts in society, conflicts on the basis of religion, caste, race, ethnicity, political conflicts which we see, communism, revivalism, fundamentalism, etc. Those conflicts we read about in chapter 15. And most of those conflicts we already cover in chapter 5, social stratification and mobility wala chapter of paper 1. So whenever you reading about those sections, you need to club those sections with this particular challenges of social transformation, as well as chapter 4, caste and caste system in. Okay. Then work and economic life. In work and economic life, we read about labor and society. That means we are talking about formal labor, informal labor, child labor. What are the issues related to labor? That is nothing but related to your chapter 11 of paper 2, which is about industrialization and urbanization. In industrialization, what we read? Industrialization, we read to how the industrialization of in India has evolved from ancient times to this modern times. How and in what way this informalization labor, formal labor, etc. have been impacting the Indian society. How this section division of labor has been impacting the Indian society. That is what we are going to read about in chapter 6 also. So we have to club those with industrialization and urbanization chapter. Okay. Then politics of society, as I have already told you, democracy, citizenship, political elite, nation state, etc., we are going to read about here. So the basic meaning of democracy, citizenship is going to change? No. The larger meaning of democracy, which is true for the larger world, is true for Indian society also. The larger domain of citizenship, the rights which a citizen should have, is true for the larger society, that is true for the Indian society also. That means we are going to look for the changes which are impacting those rights in Indian society. Hence, we are going to club those part with politics of society, which is nothing but your chapter 9 or chapter 10 of paper 2. Okay. Similarly, in politics of society, in paper 1, we read about social movements. Whereas in paper 2, social movement has been given a different chapter name, which is chapter 13, social movements in India. If we are going to read about Dalit movements, women movements in paper 1, we will be clubbing those movements, social movement chapter, in politics of society itself. Okay. Similarly, for religion society, the other chapter in paper 2 is also with the name, same name, religion and society. Then chapter 9, system of kinship. We have system of kinship chapter in paper 2 also in the same name. Then last, social change. So whatever the changes which we have been seeing, or challenges which we have been seeing in challenges of social transformation of India, as well as chapter 9, vision of social change in India, that will be clubbed here itself. Okay. So this integration or understanding of this integration of both the papers is very much necessity. Why? Because the confusion related to generating dimensions can be prevented if you are understanding this particular integration. How to use paper 1 thinkers in paper 2 answers, or how to use paper 2 examples in paper 1 answers, that can be clubbed here. UPSC क्या चाहती है हमसे? That they want us to write about the European examples, American examples, examples of Africa, etc., etc. They want us to understand Indian society from a sociological perspective, na? So why we are going to wasting our time in understanding the American examples, European examples? जहां जहां जरूरत होगी, where we will be trying to understand, for example, family, religion, etc. पर हर जगह वो जरूरत नहीं है. Okay. Then similarly, how to use paper 2 thinkers to write about the paper 1 answers. This is what we need to understand when we are trying to write good answers, when we are trying to read sociology from UPSC. Okay. Apart from these chapters which we have discussed in paper 2, the first chapter of paper 2 is about understanding different perspectives to understand the Indian society, where you will be reading about G.S. Ghure, the father of Indian sociology, then M.N. Srinivas, then A.R. Desai. Okay, then the second chapter you will be reading about impact of colonial rule on Indian society. So that impact of colonial rule on Indian society, that means they will be bringing some change, social change. That is what I was trying to highlight earlier, that in chapter 10th of paper 1, where you are talking about social change in society, that means we are also talking about modernization of society. That is what we read in paper 2. Modernization of Indian traditions, written by योगेंद्र सिंह. Okay, then chapter 3, rural and agrarian social transformation. There is one chapter, chapter 9 or chapter 10, rural and agrarian social structure. So if we are reading about social transformation, don't you think we need to read about social structure in tandem? जब कोई हम सोशल स्ट्रक्चर समझ लेंगे, दैट मीन्स वी आर ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड वन पैटर्न वे ऑफ बिहेवियर इन सोसाइटी, कि लैंड रिफॉर्म्स क्या थे, कैसे हुए, उसकी वजह से लैंड रिफॉर्म की वजह से क्या चेंजेस हुए, वो चेंजेस क्या लेके आएंगे, वो चेंजेस लेके आएंगे ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन. व्हेन वी आर रीडिंग अबाउट रूरल एंड एग्रेरियन सोसाइटी in two different chapters, my way of understanding that particular chapter is that we will be clubbing those concepts together. Okay, that if green revolution has brought some changes, brought some transformations, we need to club those with social structure wala part. Why? Because social classes bhi to change ho rahi hain. Because social classes bhi change ho rahi hain. Okay, then chapter 4 talks about tribes of India. Chapter 4 talks about caste system, chapter 5 talks about tribes in India, and chapter 6 talks about social classes in India. When we are talking about social classes का segment ऐसे divided है that we try to read about urban social structure, social classes, we read about industrial social classes, we read about middle classes in India. So if you remember in chapter paper 1, chapter 5, social stratification mobility, I have talked about class. तो अगर आप क्लास पढ़ रहे हो, दैट मीन्स द चेंजेस इन क्लासेस इन इंडिया इज आल्सो गोइंग टू बी क्लब्ड इन दैट पर्टिकुलर चैप्टर 6 इटसेल्फ. अलग से उसको हम नहीं पढ़ेंगे, so that we have ready-made thinkers, ready-made examples, ready-made dimensions, ready-made perspectives to understand those. Okay, then another, all the chapters are clubbed in paper 1 itself. One chapter which is left not to be clubbed in paper 1 part is chapter 14, population and dynamics in Indian society, where we tend to read about population, sex ratio, fertility rate, etc., etc. Okay, now most of the times when I talk to students, they are getting confused, or they are confused कि हमें इस टीचर ने बोला था that we have to write a GS kind of perspective or GS kind of answers in paper 2 questions which UPSC has been asking. अगर वैसे ही था तो then why they have made a syllabus of paper 2? paper 1 बना के ही छोड़ देते वो लोग. Why they have given emphasis to paper 2 syllabus? Okay, उसके लिए हमें कुछ नहीं करना, just to think from a sociological perspective, just remember last 6 chapters of paper 1. Fifth is about your stratification and mobility. Sixth is about your work and economic life. Seventh is about your politics and society. Eighth is about your religion and society. Ninth is about system of kinship. And 10th is about social change in modern. Now, UPSC का क्वेश्चन क्या है in PY? They have asked twice this particular question. Write a sociological perspective of national education policy 2022 and its features. अगर UPSC को फीचर्स ही सिर्फ पूछने होते, that could have been domain of governance in your GS2 part. उन्होंने ये क्वेश्चन फिर सोशियोलॉजी में क्यों पूछा, और why they have written a word sociological perspective? Because they want you to analyze those features of national education policy from a sociological angle. How that can be developed. How this national education policy 2020 and its features are going to impact the stratification mobility in society. If they are focusing on giving vocational education from class 6 onwards, they are talking about using digitization. That means they want कि हमारी जो society है उसमें stratification mobility के avenues और develop हों. How? By giving them right and relevant industry ready skills. Okay, in the same way this is impacting work and economic life of society. That अगर they are talking about that academia and industrial connection हमें बनाना है, वो connection बनाना है क्यों हमें? to understand that how work and economic life have been changing. Okay, then how politics and society has been impacting this. That the politics society of the day wants कि जो हमारी workforce बन रही है, जो हमारा education बन रहा है, that needs to be catering to the changes in the society which has been happening. अगर politics नहीं होगी तो उसके लिए policy कौन बनाएगा? Okay, then how that has been impacting the religion and society. So the religion society का जो traditional view है that the Brahmins will be doing some upper caste वाला work और जो menial work है, cleaning work है, manual scavenging है, that can be done by the Shudras only. That domain has been challenged by the new education policy कि सबको एक साथ बैठ के पढ़ना है, सबको एक जैसे स्किल्स मिलेंगे, जिसकी जो compatibility है उसके हिसाब से हम उसको देखेंगे, not on the basis of birth but on the basis of their interests. Okay, similarly how that has been changing the system of kinship in those try to understand the family wala perspective, that how that has been challenging the family perspective कि कैसे एक जगह पे 4 बच्चे हैं, एक फैमिली में 4 बच्चे हैं, तो they are trying to highlight that 4 different kids will be getting different vocational educations, different vocational trainings, and can remove the poverty from the family from poverty. Okay, and that is nothing but understanding the social change in modern frame. कि अगर आज का टाइम चाहता है that society has been changing from industrial revolution of the earlier times to the new age industrial revolution, we are talking about industrial revolution 2.0, जहाँ पे gig economy की बात हो रही है, artificial intelligence की बात हो रही है, robotics की बात हो रही है. All those are nothing but part of social change. That how that social change can be supported with these features of new education. So this is how we are going to develop, or we need to develop, a sociological understanding. When C. Wright Mills say that we have to look for sociological imagination, कि जो प्राइवेट इश्यूज हैं उनको पब्लिक इश्यूज में कैसे देखा जाता है, पब्लिक व्यू में कैसे देखा जाता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, सोसाइटी इज कंसिडर्ड एज एन इंडिविजुअल एक्ट. टेक अनदर एग्जाम्पल, न्यू एजुकेशन, दिस नीट एग्जाम, द पेपर गॉट लीक्ड दिस टाइम ऑल्सो. 7 students have committed suicide. So common sense says that this is nothing but an individual act जो उन्होंने सुसाइड किया. But a sociological understanding that this is not an individual act. क्यों? Because that society is related to the social pressure which they have been facing. Social pressure किस चीज की है? Aspirations of parents. Society में when we have tried to judge one's status on the basis of their achievement in the education field, here there comes the issue of social integration and social regulation as given by Emil Durkheim. ठीक है, कि आपकी इंपॉर्टेंस जज किससे हो रही है, दैट हाउ मच यू हैव अचीव्ड इन योर एजुकेशन. अगर आप पास हुए तो ठीक है, फेल हुए तो सोसाइटी विल रिडिक्यूल यू, योर फैमिली विल इटसेल्फ रिडिक्यूल यू. गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? ओके, देन द नेक्स्ट मेजर problem which student face and how we are going to solve that particular part is related to current affairs, that how we are going to read about current affairs in sociological way, how we are going to integrate that particular part in. So there is one example which I always ask to my students. Few years ago there was one incident in old Rajendra Nagar, New Delhi, the coaching hub of UPSC aspirants, that where in one particular coaching institute few students who were sitting in the library, they got drowned and were killed. So why this particular thing is important for us, how we are going to understand that particular part in a sociological perspective. So when I ask students about that particular issue, that where you are going to fit that particular part in your syllabus, they are blanked. So if we have one chapter related to chapter 13, industrialization and urbanization, so this incident is nothing but part of your skewed urbanization which we read in chapter 13. That this was nothing but a failure of governance. This was nothing but a corruption. Okay, this was nothing but related to how this is going to impact their family. That they were nothing but the aspirations for their family, the members of their family. There was a larger change which we tried to bring, which the people tried to bring after this incident in the form of social movements about the children rights, about the rights of aspirants. Okay. Similarly, the example which I have highlighted earlier also, that how the wars which we have been seeing in society right now in the world level, how that can be seen in a sociological perspective. So in politics and society, we read about power. If that power is controlled by one, or this power is distributed in the larger society. So in a sociological term, this is Max Weber concept of zero sum concept of power and Telker Parsons concept of variable sum concept of power. Where in zero sum, the name itself suggests कि power society में किसी वक्त पर किसी एक के पास रहेगी. In variable sum concept, that itself highlights that power is varied. That means every chunk of people in society have different kinds of power. So in international relation, use this particular thought process. US चाहता है कि पावर उसके पास रहे, supporting Weber's theory. But the larger developing world like India, Japan, African countries, Latin American countries, they want the power to be distributed with the larger world. Hence, they are very much disturbed about the degrading or decreasing role of international organizations. WTO बना क्यों है? To control the trade. But if US is trying to create monopoly by changing the tariff rates according to his Trump's will, that is going to impact the society. Hence, it is problematic. So we have to understand that in a variable sum. Okay, this is how we are going to develop a sociological understanding. Now, the next question is about answer writing. So for answer writing, in every class, I will be discussing one or two questions. We will be focusing on that, what kind of right approach we need to have in answer writing. And the students who are already part of my classes, they already know that how I use the topper answer sheets to highlight that what they have written or how we could have improved on those answers. Okay. So for my approach is very much simple approach that I focus on generating more dimensions considering with the demand of questions, the following core demand, then examples, then clubbing it with thinkers, the relevant ones, not the unnecessary ones. Bombarding your sheets with the name of irrelevant thinkers is not going to give you marks. So you have to focus on the core demand, core thinker, core example, which is relevant for you to write a good answer. Okay, so we will be approaching in that scenario when we are talking about our classes. Then students also ask about that we have read this particular part, for example modernity पढ़ लिया हमने, emergent sociology पढ़ लिया, but अभी भी हमें ये नहीं समझ आ रहा that how or what we have to focus upon while writing the answers or while revising our notes. There is a simple exercise which I always ask my students to follow, that whatever you have read, for example you have read about modernity, try to write the basic definition of modernity. What is basic definition of modernity? The change of society from traditional society to a modern society is nothing but modernity. Or modern society का क्या definition? That how the society or what are the changes the society has seen from traditional society to the modern society. Simple definition. Then try to write about the features. So modernity के features क्या हुए? Following the scientific temper, following logics, following reasons, the rise of individualism, the rise of capitalism, decreasing role of religion, or the rise of secularism. This is what modernity is all about. Now, if the examiner has been asking me about that how this modernity is different from traditions, can we use these particular features to write that answer? If modern society is secular, traditional society was secular or religious? It was religious. If that society was religious, the scientific temper, logic, reasons, will be there? No, the society will be run by church, religious rules and regulations. A modern society is individual society. When we say, take from our society's examples, when we say that Indian society is a traditional society focuses on traditional institutions. Hence, the importance of family and marriage is continuing in Indian society. Okay, so we always believed in traditional society, always believed in collectivism. Okay, so this is how you have to use your knowledge to focus on definitions and writing the features. The students who already know about the thinkers, they can easily club those thinkers in this particular approach. Okay, that how Emil Durkheim talks about the modern societies being scientific societies. How Max Weber and all talks about that there will be rise of secularism in modern societies. But there comes R.K. Martin, who talks about that if modern societies are so much secular, why there is so much communalism, fundamentalism in the modern world then? So he is negating that particular secularism concept itself. Okay. So whatever the knowledge which you have, try to club that in the form of definition in features and try to write or club your thinkers in those features itself, so that you will be doing an analysis as well as critical analysis of your part. Okay. So this was all for your basic understanding, basic orientation, how you develop the develop sociological imagination, how you are going to utilize your current affair perspective in a sociological framework. If you have any issues, I'm here to answer about those issues. Okay. The students who need any further help, I am writing down one number. You can connect directly with me while contacting on this particular number for your issues related to answer writing, understanding concepts and all. If you have any issues related to the course and its validity and all, you can connect to 8595 352083. Okay, so these are the two numbers on the which you can connect related to your sociology issues. This is my number. I will be handling your issues here. And if you have any administrative issues related to sociology, that when the course is going to start and how many classes will be there, etc., you can connect on this particular number. Okay, so all the best, you guys. We will meet again in the same way. Thank you.